This is Talk is Sheep, the official podcast of the Wild Sheep Society BC, brought to you by Sitka Gear. Come along as we bring conversations that matter to you into the high alpine.
Oh, gentlemen, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Great. Kyle's got a big smile on his face. He looks excited.
Well, I'm looking at Saint Amand. He's got his fishing gear out. He when I grow up, you're always like, what do you aspire to be? And I'm like, I want to be just like Saint Amand. Like he's fishing, he's hunting, he's got a cranker ram sitting there, a stone. And I know it's just shithouse luck. He's only put a few hours in the field to get that one. And then he's got a dink of a whitetail sitting there. Like that thing is insane, dude. Like those two specimens right there are just incredible. And so you put a lot of time in outdoors, buddy. So it's awesome to.
Well, he's gone. Serves him right for trying to show off his mounts.
This episode is sponsored by our conservation partner, Gunworks. Thank you, Sitka Gear and Gunworks, for investing in healthy wildlife and sustainable ecosystems.
Welcome back.
Hey, guys.
We just had a quick commercial break there. Chad had to disappear for a minute, pressing buttons and whatnot.
Round two.
Yeah, as he's trying to show off his mounts that he's using for rod holders in his garage, or your shop, wherever you're at, man cave.
Yeah, man room.
Man room.
Yeah.
So, for the folks that don't know who you are, let's start off with that number one question. Share a bit of your background, who you are, what you do.
Sure. Well, my name's Chad Saint Amand. Quite a few people will know me through these channels, but I'm 43 years old now. I live in Prince George, BC. Pretty avid hunter, avid fisherman, as the background shows. I've been doing this a long time. Went on my first sheep hunt in 2009 and try to do one every year now. Family life gets in the way, or other priorities get in the way, but it's been pretty consistent over the years. And just mountain hunting in general. And then on the side, outside of my day job, I'm a journeyman millwright. Outside of that, I own a company called Black Pine Creative, where I make custom fishing rods. And then I do some custom elk calls, a little bit of video editing. Just a little bit more in-depth artistic endeavor. And it blends really well.
Yeah, well, you do great work, man. Your side hustle is quite impressive, to be honest. I want to dive into that a little bit, actually, because you mentioned the custom rods, and where'd the vision come from to bring in sheep horn into the rods, and what do you do with them too? Because we're sure happy you build them.
Yeah, well, the vision just comes from a passion for being in the mountains, and whether I'm fishing, like if I'm fishing in the summer, I'm in on a mountain stream somewhere, like being so close to the Rocky Mountain Trench and having that connection to them. You're always fishing in them, and you're surrounded by the wildlife. And part of what I want to do, and I realize I don't hunt as much as I used to, but I still want to feel that I'm there. So when I get to work with things like the different materials for building the fishing rods. And let's be fair, I can't deviate from the graphite rods or fiberglass or the traditional rod building rods. It's no different than a rifle maker. He can't deviate too much from what's there. But what I can do is when it comes to making my grips and reel inserts, I can use those different mediums, different materials like wild sheep, like British Columbia maple, like Vancouver Island maple, cedar, birch, moose, elk, deer, like all those different materials, I can turn those down on a lathe and put them into a fishing rod. And it really gives you, to me, it just gives me a sense of, what our province and what we do as hunters and anglers. I can put that into the rod and you can feel it and touch it and use it. And that was always um, behind the stone sheep getting into a rod. That's kind of always where I was looking at. Yeah. How's that?
No, it's good. No, it's artwork what you put out there, and I'm not even sure you've donated to us the past couple of years for the Northern with the rods, and man, they've brought in
Yeah.
some high dollars and garner a lot of attention, and we truly appreciate that and what you're doing for conservation on that front.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. And like those builds, and it's hard, like I try to, it's hard not to get nostalgic about certain builds, but there's exactly three rods in my whole lineup that I've built that kind of they stand out to me, and when I pull them out of a case and I show people, they're they tend to be blown away by how it's put together. And then when I show it to the rod building community as a whole, um, they're very well received. But those three rods are all the three rods that I built with wild sheep, and I have three. I built the first rod that I built for you guys. I was actually going to build it 5 years ago, and COVID hit, and then all the chaos surrounding that, and no conventions, and I didn't feel like those particular rods would do as well at auction, so I didn't offer them up at that point. I wanted to wait for us to get back gathering together where we could tell our stories and I could tell the story of the rod. So that was the first rod I gave 2 years ago. And then that one just came together so nice. And there was the pieces of stone sheep I ended up getting. I was able to save the annular ring on them and put them into the rod. So when it comes to, like us as sheep hunters and those annular rings, there's just that little bit more meaning that goes with it, right? So I can wax and talk like the artist side of me on them, but yeah, that's kind of where you want to go with them.
Yeah, no, they're definitely eye catching, and I think how'd Southern worded it? They're just sexy. Some sexy rods coming out.
Yeah. Well, and the hard thing with getting the stone sheep is like I don't actually sell that. Um, it's they're generous. The pieces are generously donated to me. So I save those to put into, the meaningful rods like the wild sheep rods, or my one personal rod. I will probably personally never build another rod with sheep horn in it for myself.
Mm.
I have a couple rods that I'm making for Don Stevens. He generously donated the pieces, and they're just scrap pieces from his knife making, actually. And I'm going to put him into a couple rods for him as a thank you for helping me out and helping wild sheep. And yeah, those are gonna be neat little travel rods. You'll get to see him probably before he does.
Somehow I feel they'll be in my hands at some point, just like the
Yeah.
horn before you make the rods.
Well, it's got to pass down. You got to touch and feel it, right?
Yeah, there you go. You're not just gonna
Yeah.
cut a chunk out of the ram behind you on the wall and put that into a rod.
Well, what's funny is I actually thought about getting a replica made so I could use them.
Oh man, there would be some riled up folks around if they heard that.
Well, it's what though, like if I did that, I'm not gonna do it. Like, I mean, there's no other animal in my possession that I worked harder for. and I worked really hard for my first elk with a bow. Um, but that would be like that's getting to like I can't even go ask a regional biologist anymore. Hey, do you think that I can get some chunks for artwork for donation? And like, man, it's like pulling teeth out there. It's very strict now, and it's hard. It's going to become a lot harder in the future to be able to build with stuff like that,
Yeah,
right?
it'll definitely continue to get interesting as policies change and the people change and all our contacts change. The future's ever evolving, and hopefully one day it trends in the right direction to make things easier. But hey, let's not dive into that rabbit hole.
Well, no, and it's not. We don't need to. I mean, we don't need to go down. That's not even like part of it. It's just I have an animal up on the wall there with a set of horns that could be used to benefit sheep as a whole in the future if I ever wanted to. But at the end of the day, I want my kids and my grandkids to be able to walk up to this ram, touch its hair, and you know feel the horn. There's just I don't know what it is. There is nothing like feeling horn or ivory as a hunter I mean there's a that put a that just puts a different feeling in you than say grabbing a set of moose or deer antlers, at least for
Well,
me.
yeah, I know there's something I'd almost say poetic about sheep horns, and they wear their scars of their life, and you can see their hard years, you can see their battles. It's just you're holding their life in your hands, and it's a roadmap of their life, and it's beautiful to me as well. Like I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and like for me, one of the biggest things that actually like I hadn't been sheep hunting yet, and we were my wife and I I took her to New York City for her 25th birthday. And we went, well, of course, I'm going to the Natural History Museum. And the direction we walk up the stairs into the Natural History Museum goes right, ironically, there's a stone sheep right on the outside of the building. There's a wild sheep there. You walk up the stairs and you go into the building. The first thing you see is a wild sheep. And then we went into the Hall of Africa. And as you're walking out of the Hall of Africa, there's the big double fireproof doors. And then over top of them are a set of Roosevelt's second largest elephant he had ever shot, and they wrapped right up and over. They're about almost 10 inches round at the bottom. But there was something about life as a whole in them, and they allow you to touch them. And again, it's like the sheep. You see the scars, but that moment when I got home from that, the next year I went on my sheep hunt because I said I'm done procrastinating this style of hunt. And yeah, it's been if you ask my wife, it's all encompassing since.
Yeah, those are the kind words she'll use, right? It's all
Oh,
encompassing.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so let's dive into that ram a little bit. Like, how do you got a beautiful ram? So we know that much. You're successful. So how do you choose the right hunting area, and what kind of research went into that decision to go there? You're laughing, so it's got to be basic.
Finger on a map and opportunity.
Yeah.
Um, no, not really. I've been very fortunate with to have some really good coworkers who are very free about their information. And not that they said, "Hey, go here, go here." There's sheep here. It was more of a, "Hey, if you have the opportunity, I think this would be a good landing strip to go to." Because we were fortunate to get a kind of be able to go wherever we wanted last year, and so that's what we did. And we went to that strip, and like without giving out the details overly much. We knew that some of the largest rams in the world had come out of there. Um, there's nothing new with the Musqueam area. Let's face it; it's fantastic hunting all the way through there. Um, But we knew that there were going to be rams. We knew there was going to be less sheep. We expected seeing less than previous years. Originally, we had actually originally planned to go to a different spot, and this was going to be our backup. But we ran out of fuel at that spot. That's where we got put down, which is okay. Which is okay, really. So I landed there, and a beautiful valley, potential out the back end as you're flying over, and you can already see the game trails in the Alpine, and you're like, okay, this is a good spot. And we landed, and I get my spot, or I don't even put my spotting scope out. I just put the binoculars up shortly after our pilot left, and got onto sheep right away. So it was a very good feeling to find animals. They were it was just a ewe and a lamb, but it was a good feeling to, start spotting sheep right away, which sometimes it takes a couple of days to find them, or you got to hike in. Well, we were hunting just about right away last year. So my partner gets in, and we just went at it right away. As far as the research into it, it's a lot of conversation with experienced hunters, even talking with Kyle and yourself, and talking with other people within the Wild Sheep Society, or I had friends and family that live up in the Fort St. John area. And you just you're bouncing the information, and you get on your map and you go, okay, let's try here. That's as in depth as I get.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So what's the typical day look like for you back there? Just walk us through your typical backcountry day while you're on that hunt.
So when we do these hunts, my partner and I've been hunting with my partner since we were, 13 years old, stealing 22s and sneaking around the back 40 for grouse, rabbits. But we ended up, once we decided where we go, we end up developing a plan of each valley we want to look into systematically. And on this hunt, we changed it up. We typically like to have a base camp, but we keep it fairly light even at our base camps. So what we would do is we spend hours actually just kind of going over, okay, on day one, we're going to get as far as we can get, because you never know when you fly in. You never know what the time of day you're going to get in. It could be 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It could be 9 o'clock in the morning. So day one is typically just land, get your shit together, and get as far in or towards your starting point as you want to go. Which for us this year was a kilometer. So 2K, I think it was our first day. But it set us up. It put us into a good spot where we could have a really good overview of the valley. And our plan was to go there for a day or two, spend the early mornings and afternoons glassing, and then in the middle of the day, we'll go check out our specific spot we wanted to look at for day one, which we did. And it worked out really well on this particular hunt. We got to our day one spot. It took us a few hours of bushwhacking to find where we needed to be, but we ended up getting there. We were on to legal bull elk almost like right away. They were keeping us awake that first night. We didn't find any sheep. We knew they were there because I had seen them in the early in the morning. But it was more get our bearings, figure stuff out. And so that was day one. Day two, we went up into a valley that we wanted to start glassing in. We got up there, and as we were walking up, I turned around to where I had saw the ewe and lamb the day before. I look back, and there's 12, a band of 12, some ewes, lambs, banana rams, and one ram that was probably, he was close, very, very close to being full curl, if not 8 years old. But again, long way away. Just shape and size, said that to me, but we're like, okay, we're not going to drop hiking this mountain. We'll go up and we'll look. So we go up, we look, see some ewes and lambs, some more elk. Um, didn't want to really stick around to see if there were any rams in the that valley. So we kind of went back. We sat down, we found the ram across the valley again, and we kind of decided, hey, this is only day 2. No one else is in here. We won't bug him. So we'll just keep going up the valley the next day. And that's what we did. We packed up the next day, dropped down, hiked up, literally flipped a coin which direction in the head of this drainage we wanted to go. A sheep coin, by the way.
Hey.
And that's the decision maker for us now, is that coin. And we went to another high point deeper up the valley for, I think that would have been day 3. Yeah. And we found a real nice kind of knoll that allowed us to overlook some of the most beautiful sheepy looking mountainside that I had ever seen in that country. And we were able to tuck our tent away. It was real quiet. It was just a great spot. And we didn't find anything that afternoon, but we got up at first light. And it had kind of been shitty and rainy, and the sun had just come out, and we just started seeing critters. I looked up, I found this guy behind me. He was like 4.5 kilometers away from our camp. And I was like, oh my gosh, mass. All I saw was the back end of he dropped and just mass for days. So I was like, we have to get closer to him. And he was with a 5-year-old, smaller ram. And it was just the 2 of them up at the head of the valley. And I had just finished breakfast. I was packing my gear up. My buddy had gone back to start putting his bag together and take our teepee down. And I look up behind me, and it was one of those moments where you see a ram and your jaw drops and your heart starts to race, and you're like, holy crap. Because the ram that walked out behind me as we were packing up was one of the nicest animals I have ever seen in the bush. Just a pig, and you've seen the pictures. But that ram, he walked out of our lives. We shed a little tear, said a little prayer, and packed camp up because we were going after a ram. And I don't like being like, some guys are willing to hike all the way up that kind of distance and then hike back to their camp every night. We don't like to do that. We like to kind of keep our camp fairly close if we can. And then if we have to, we always have lightweight bivy sacks that we can just crawl into our bags and get out of the weather if we need to. So yeah, that was kind of the start of that hunt. And it was just one of those hunts where everything kind of went together. We didn't have we had no bear issues. We had no predators around. It was it was really, really cool. You want me to keep going?
Oh, I wouldn't mind, but yeah, let's keep rolling.
Okay. Figured I'd go with a cliffhanger there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, we packed up and we're like, well, our next plan was to go in the valley behind that camp. And it was one of those ugly, bushy, shitty hikes through subalpine spruce that you don't even wish on your worst enemy. And we ended up finding a couple moose trails now got us through all this. And we get up, and then we just keep finding ewes and lambs. Like, every valley was a rearing valley. And each of the 3, they progressively got smaller and smaller lambs, it was awesome to see. It was really awesome to see ewes with lambs consistently. Like, every ewe almost had a lamb up in that country. and that's a testament. And I'm going to give a shout out to the outfitter up there. That's just a testament of an outfitter looking after an area, and it benefited a resident, and it benefits their clients, and it shows. It really showed what can be done when we manage wildlife properly. And it was really good to see, and it was good to see it was just good to see high lamb recruitment in that area. And that's something, since I got involved with wild sheep, that, that's one of the first, even before we see the rams, that's the one thing that kind of stands out to us as we go through the different areas, is how many lambs are with the ewes and how much wolf sign we see in an area. Whether people want to think it or not, wolves are very, very hard on sheep, and we have to keep their numbers down, or we won't. They'll just pick every lamb and they'll pick every ewe off those hills, right? So it was good to see. It was good to see that. The only predator we saw, and I've read a lot more of it than actually seen it, but there was a lot of golden eagles in that valley. And they were pretty neat to watch. You'd look up on the mountainside, you'd follow a ridge all the way to the top of the mountain looking for sheep. You look on the top, and here's a 3-foot bird sitting down staring over everything. That was actually a kind of a highlight for us. We talked about. So anyway, the ram behind me. We ended up, the day we saw him at 6 a.m. and we just kind of ended up working our way in and out of a couple of valleys, side hilling, some ugly scree like we dumbly do once in a while. But we were able to watch him most of the day, and we knew that he was at the head of the valley. He wasn't going anywhere. Our wind wasn't pushing to him in any way. It was just conditions that day were perfect. So we get to the head of the valley. We actually ended up getting into some ewes and lambs at 5 yards. One little lamb jumped up from behind a rock, scared the crap out of us, and then ran like they do, 30 yards, looked back. And what was really neat about that lamb and ewe is they had a really dark eye patch. And you can kind of see his eye behind me when the shading is right. He's got a dark eye patch, almost like a raccoon. Or that's what stood out the most when we actually got onto him. So we had noticed this with these ewes and lambs, and when we actually saw him later in the day and took pictures through the spotter, he had the same eye patch. So I'm pretty sure he was breeding the ewes and lambs in the valley before him, the year before. Well, the previous probably 6 or 7 years he'd been probably at it. So that was something neat. I don't know how many guys get to see or have that unique coloration that gets passed down. So did that, worked our way over, and we got kind of cliffed out and made some not great choices, but they worked out in the end. And we got to the head of the valley, and we're we got there, and it was actually supposed to be my hunting partner Dustin's shot. I had first shot the previous hunt the year before, and then this was now his turn. So I was like, well, they were working their way up the valley in the morning. Let's go peek over the edge, because there was kind of a scree slope separating that we kind of had to just get over the hump. We get over there, they're not there, and we're like, oh crap, what happened? All the feelings of you screwed up come to play, and we look down below us, and they're below us. They went totally not where we thought they were going to go. So we had to sneak back, and remember, we're fully in the open here. We're above Alpine. They can see us. I don't know. They may have saw us. They may not have. We were above them, so they probably weren't looking, but they could have seen us. So we slide back, and we make it to a couple of big rocks, and we get to these big rocks, and we drop our bags, and like it's almost dark now. We drop our bags. We've committed. We have our bivvies. We're gonna spend the night. And as soon as it's dark out with no headlamps, we'll go up and we'll make our beds. That way, the sheep aren't going to see us, and we're tucked behind these big rocks, so they can't see us anyway. So we get by the rocks, we sit down. I don't even know if we had dinner that night. I know we ate, but we didn't cook a meal that night. Got the spotter scope up, put the digiscope on, and by the time they bedded down where we could get a truly good look at them, they were 665 yards, something like that. And we got a really good look at both sides. We knew he wasn't full curl. We knew he was close, but not full curl. But when we put the digiscope on the horns, like we started counting. We got to 10, and we went, okay, that's a legal sheep in the morning. And we sat on them until dark. We had dinner on them. We watched the both of them. They were right across from us in the valley, and once it got dark enough where we were pretty certain that they were not going to see us, we went back and made our beds, and we slept under the edge of a couple of big rocks. It turned into a terrible night. We got our beds made. I actually, in order to stay level, we kicked a bed out just like you see the sheep do and other animals do. And then I stacked some flat rocks, and I put my binoculars under me or something. I didn't want them to get wet, so I put them under my bivvy. And it turned out to be one of the most comfortable, shitty nights I've ever had on a mountainside. And it was a night. Yeah, it sucked. We weren't warm or colder. Like, we weren't cold or anything. We were warm and comfortable, but the gates of hell opened up and it stormed and blew. Like, it was blowing so loud that the next hunt I do, I'm actually going to bring earplugs, because that's what kept me awake was the wind whipping on the fabric of the bivy sack. Sorry?
So that night you're suffering in the weather. You're having what we always like to refer to as the type 2 fun. Are you also thinking the whole time, is that ram going to be there when you wake up in the morning, now that you know it's the one?
Yeah, like, you know what? It was weird. Like, I've ever since you guys have asked to come on the show, and I sent Kyle a picture. I think he might have even got the first picture I sent out. I've been reflecting on the hunt, and I never at any point thought they were gonna leave. It was just the conditions. I don't know. It was almost surreal on the hunt, because everything to that point had just been going like click, 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 like nothing. Like, we didn't have, up to that point, we didn't have like we crossed some rivers, but we didn't get wet. Like, we crossed a couple rivers and creeks, but our boots hadn't gotten soaked yet. And like, we were like over our gaiters type thing, but we still hadn't been soaked. It hadn't poured. We hadn't been tent bound. We were able to hunt every day. We were able to have some campfires, and that might have been, like, looking back on it, having the fire in the stove on the second night or the third night. That smoke might have pushed the big ram that we saw when we went after him. Might have pushed him out of the valley, but I mean, with the fires in BC, don't think campfire smoke or the little bit that we put out would have pushed him out. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't, but up until that point, like even that didn't like register as like a detriment to our hunt or anything. It just yeah, so we had gone to bed with a plan, and we needed those sheep to drop down the mountain because of the exposure. We needed those rams to drop down about 200 yards. And then if they dropped down 200 yards, we could slide down the mountain in the morning and you'd have a shot across the valley. We knew it was going to be a longer shot. And my partner and I, like Dustin and I, we're not actually big advocates of the distance shooting. Like I'm not a huge advocate of the 500-600 yard shots. I'll definitely never I won't knock him to say it's just I'm not a good shot with a rifle at that distance. So I like to stay within my boundaries of shooting. And so is my partner. But if you can shoot that far, shoot it by all means. Like it takes a lot of shooting to get good at those distances. But anyway, I digress. We'll just get back to the night. So yeah, like I crawled into my sleep. I leveled it out as best I could. We put our mats down, get into my bivvy, which is 100% waterproof. I put my headphones in to I was going to watch a little show just to fall asleep. I'm watching the show and it's like I crawled in, zipped up, and the rain starts. And I'm like, oh, great. Like, last thing you want. Like, I'll take snow over rain any day, and it's raining. We both carry sill tarps to cover our bags, but because the sheep were across the way, we didn't want to open them up. We wanted to keep as minimal area as possible for noise. And it's raining, but it's not raining. It's pouring, and it's probably 30-kilometer-an-hour winds. Like, it is shit. And I reached down. I don't know why I did it, but I took my hand out of my sleeping bag and I reached down beside me right into a puddle of water. My previously waterproof bag, which I've relied on dozens of hunts, is leaking. And I carry a down sleeping bag. Like this isn't synthetic. It's not going to take water. So now I'm petrified and awake that I'm going to get wet. Not even thinking about the rams at this point. And what saved me on that hunt from getting wet, my bag never got wet all night, even though there was a little bit of water in the bivvy, was I carry those Z-Lite pads from Thermarest. I carry the half-size one. So the foam, and then I put another half-size old school style thin Thermarest on it. But that foam lifted me out of the water enough that I never ever did get wet from the inside of the bivvy. So that was kind of again, that was another click, another win without being that bad. We didn't sleep much, but at least you're not cold, you're comfortable. You're not suffering, let's say, other than a shitty night's sleep. So we wake up and like it's pouring. Now it's socked in. And we waited till it was about 6:30 when we finally figured it was going to be light enough that we could move and not be seen. And we get up. I look across to where the ram was, or where we put him to bed. He's gone. And I'm thinking, oh, crap. I look over to my friend because we were separated a little bit, and he was a little lower than me. And I said, where's the rams? He goes, I don't know. He hadn't seen them yet. So we're like, uh-oh. And we start looking, and we look down, and they're below us feeding. And we're like, honestly, my first thought was, are you kidding me? This is working out right now? Again, like, in my brain, I'm thinking something like, kind of in the back of your mind, you're like, okay, well, it's go time now, and we still have to drop down about. I think we dropped down about 250 yards still. Like we still have to close that gap. We start dropping down, and they're not even looking at us at this point. They haven't looked up once, which is awesome for us. And in my experience, as long as you're above a mountain animal, they typically won't. But we're still in the open. So we're dropping down, we drop down. We drop down to the last big rocks that were on the hillside before it kind of transitioned to like more grassy slopes where the sheep would like to feed. And we didn't really want to move below that because now there was zero cover. We could probably bum scooted more, but at that point now you'd be looking at an elevated shot, which is always tougher. And they were actually at that point they were directly across from us. So we set up the spotting scope off to one side of the rock because the rock was like perfect kneeling shot kind of position, like really good shot spot. I put the spotter on him, no digiscope this time, just the spotter to look at him, and I counted. We knew he was 10, but I counted 9 rings on both sides, which like for any new sheep hunter out there or guys going out to hunt, like my buddy Dustin and I, we call it the rule of 9. And if we can't count 9 rings on both sides, and both sides, guys, is key when you count your rings, because the biologists now, they look at that other side. If it doesn't have 8 rings, they're going to count it as 7. And in the past, you might have got away with it, but they're not. That's the past. So you got to be really careful counting rings. So we call it, like I said, we call it the rule of 9. Lots of guys do it. I got 9 rings on both sides, 100%. We're 100% on the age. And since it was Dustin's shot, I said to Dustin, I go, hey man, like, it's 9. It's legal, but I want you to confirm that it's legal. Shooters should always confirm the shot. You like that's really important that they confirm their shot, because at the end of the day, you're the one pulling the trigger. You're the one that's going to get in trouble if something shitty happens. And we've, in the last 4 or 5 years, we've seen that a rise in illegal rams being shot. Or I don't know, we say illegal, but poor judgments were made, and the rams were either too young or not long enough. Marginal shots. So you got to be really, really careful. So he got on the scope, he counted 9 on both sides, and he goes, Chad, you shoot. And I'm like, are you kidding me? No, it's your shot. He goes, no. And this is the testament to how close of friends that we are. He goes, no, you've been doing this longer. You've worked harder. You take the shot. And I wasn't arguing. I'm not.
No.
You know what? I don't know if I've ever asked him, but I don't know why he didn't want to shoot the ram. But at that point, I was already setting up. And on this hunt, this was the second time I had ever carried a rifle. All my other sheep hunts in 14 years had been with archery. This was the second time I'd ever carried a rifle, and I had a 6.5 Creedmoor. But just before the hunt, another good friend of mine lent me a Mountain Gear bipod, which are like, of all the bipods I've seen out of all the companies, that one was the first one I was like, I'm not going to turn down using that either. Like, it is a nice bipod. got set up on a rock, took my toque off. And I'm not kidding. Like, this was a bench setup on this rock. It was again, it was another click moment. And I took my toque off. I actually put it under the stock of the rifle, and I shot. And like I said, I'm not a great shot at those distance. It was 285, which isn't a long distance for a lot of guys anymore, but for me, that's pushing what I like to shoot. However, this particular year with that rifle, I had been shooting out to those ranges, so I was comfortable. I took the shot. First shot missed like 8 inches high. And I watched it go poof on the moss. The moss went flying in the air, landed right in front of the ram, and he started sniffing it. Started chewing on it. And I'm like, oh, that's good. It didn't fit for whatever reason, though. Again, it didn't faze me because it just didn't faze me. The mist didn't faze me at all. And I lined up. I just adjusted my crosshairs and shot again. And I hit him low in the chest. He was laying down, which is not, an ideal shot on a ram, but his head was, had he been laying down sleeping with his head turned in over the vitals, we would have waited longer, but he had just laid down. He was broadside looking away. So I wasn't worried about, hitting antler or hitting the horn and, or doing a lot of damage. Again, you got to remember too, that the weather was so bad that even the crack of the rifle didn't agitate these sheep at all. Like it had been thunderstorming all night. And I think even when we pulled the trigger, the way the sound would have moved, it didn't spook them. So even after the first shot, he didn't move. The second shot where I hit him low, he stood up, but he only went 2 steps and then just he was alert but not agitated where he was taking off, and he was just looking around like he knew something was wrong, but he didn't know what was wrong. And on the third shot, I was able to adjusted perfect, and it was a clean double lung, and he laid down and he never left. So it was at that point. Now we're like, okay, we got a ram, and we're literally not hugging, we're not high-fiving, we're not shaking hands. We've had a couple of bad cases of doing that on bear hunts or elk hunts where you get up to it where it should be and it's gone, and you're like, oh no. So we didn't do any of that. All we did was, okay, we got a ram. It's down. We can see it's down. Let's go get our gear, and we'll walk up to it. And at this point, it'd been raining all morning too. Like, we're wet. We go back to our gear. We stuff our sleeping bags. Our sleeping bags are shockingly dry. I mean, they're hunt damp, call it, from sleeping in, but we get them stuffed into the waterproof bags, throw everything into our backpacks. Our wet bivvies, we just rolled up tight, ringed the water, and kind of strapped them to the outside of the bag. We hiked down, and at the bottom of the valley was a nice little pond, so we got water, and like, beautiful, probably one of the prettiest pieces of water I have ever seen in all my travels. Just an incredible spot. And now we're just we're not rushing anything. Again, it's just like perfect. At the lake, I turn around, look up, and the snow had worked its way down. We were only about, 300 meters from snow at that point. It had worked its way all the way down the mountain. We get water, we kind of knew the benches we had to get to, but we weren't quite sure which bench he was on, and it's always kind of harder to um it's kind of harder to route find for a tiny small animal that looks like a rock um from the bottom up, because it doesn't, I mean, nothing looks the same. It's usually easier when you're going down and you can see it. um but we didn't even like when I say the hunt was perfect, like we didn't even search, like we were able to walk right to the sheep. And I walked up to him and I said to my friend, I was like, hey, do you mind just, can you just stand back? I just want to have a minute to walk up and look at it. And as I got up to it, I dropped my backpack. I started walking up to it, and he's laying on a tuft of moss and dirt, and the whole valley edge in front of us is open. And the sun's starting to come through the mountain, the whole, like the glory of the Rocky Mountains are showing now. And I get on this ram, and it couldn't be a better spot. Um, and I pick up his horn. I don't even touch him, and I start counting it. And I get to 9, and I'm like, okay, he's legal. He's what we knew he was already. That relief lifts off your shoulders. And I just start counting. I'm like, I get to 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and I'm just like, I grab him, like I don't even know what to say. There's like like it's almost dead emotion, as you try and comprehend like how old this guy is, and like how long he's lived in this environment. And it's overwhelming. And for me, it's been overwhelming ever since. Um, I was able to count those rings. Like my friend took pictures, gave me the moment with the sheep before we start doing everything, and we got the pictures, which are quite spec. You hate to use the word. I don't know. I don't like using spectacular, but they're pretty awesome. Like just the spot where he was and how far down the valley you could see. Like you couldn't ask for a better moment in time. It I can close my eyes today and see the whole scene. It's just rad. It was rad. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some stunning pictures that you shared before. What is that like that moment? What does it mean to you? It's Rams down, like everything's coming together. You're hit 12 on the rings. What's that mean to you? Like what? There's a deep meaning there, and I want to dig in a little bit.
Yeah, like at the time, it's taking me 6 months to really, reflect on the hunt. I mean, you guys tried right away. You asked me almost right away to come here and talk about it, and I couldn't at the time. Actually, you asked me for a write up, and I couldn't do it because like it's deeply personal, that first ram. And I think all rams are going to be that way in some sense because of the effort it takes to get there. But for me, I had achieved most of what I wanted to achieve in hunting until I got sheep hunting. And I had I missed a round with my bow. I've had lots of close encounters with some big sheep. The year before I sat within it was 40 yards of 8 rams for an hour and a half that I couldn't make legal either in age or in curl. So when you take all those moments and they all culminate into that final moment, it's just deeply personal. It's really hard to say in words what it means, but as a hunter and an angler, and I like to think, I like to give back in conservation and try and be minded that way. Um, it is an unbelievable feeling. Uh, Probably akin to your first child, really. Um, it's kind of one of those moments. It's one of those moments where it's never going to leave you. I mean, you're going to be proud of it forever. Um, and you get to share that story. Uh, yeah, and it's you think about all the people that helped you along the way, and all the people you meet or go on these hunts with. Like every one of them contributes in some fashion or their own way to getting to this point. And this is the second ram I've been on. The first ram was 10 or 11. Um, yeah, it was 10 or 11. But that particular ram was the largest ram shot in the province that year. And we had a shot with a bow. It didn't work out. So my friend Darcy shot it at like 68 yards. Like and that moment was really, really cool. And it was a big ram, and it was awesome to be a part of. And just the crap we went through on that hunt and the amount of miles we put on to get there. And that's like a whole other story behind it. But this guy, getting him, being that he's 12 years old, your first ram, it just like, yeah, it was surreal. The moment was surreal, and it's one that will go down as my top. Probably my top hunting moment for sure. And life moments, top 3, top 2. No, top 3.
Yep, careful.
I know. I'm trying to go like, okay, marriage, 2 children, so top 4.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's awesome. Like that one night there, you were doing one of your fly tying events at Trench, and you were speaking to me about the hunt, and I knew right away. I'm like, man, we got to get you on this podcast. You were so passionate, and you could just see the twinkle in your eye as you were talking about it, like how much it meant to you. And I'm super
Oh,
happy you came on to talk about it.
yeah. It was. Yeah. No, it was awesome. Like, I, we're coming on the podcast, wondering what we were gonna talk about. Like, Kyle got brought up in a conversation this week. I was telling the story of a hunt where I had like forgot my arrows on a hunt, or broadheads on a mountain hunt. And we met Kyle and his friends up at Moncho, and the one guy lent me his extra broadhead for a elk hunt in the Clechesi area. And yeah, it's like, it's all those moments. And for me, the only thing that would have like maybe like put it on top is if my friend Tom would have been on it. Would have been on it. He's working in New Zealand actually now, so he's not able to be on these hunts. Because between Tom and Dustin, we've shared some of the, like, we've grown up and shared a lot of those moments, the big moments in life together. And when you get to do that with your closest friends or family, it makes it all the better. That's for sure.
Yeah, well said. I couldn't agree with you more on that one.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
like when you dive into this, and like you're sucked into the sheep world. You said you've been hunting sheep since 2009. Now you've got one hell of a ram on your wall. Is there one thing you wish more sheep hunters understood about conservation and what it means? Because you get to see it firsthand when you're out there.
I think the biggest thing, and I don't want to knock. I think the biggest thing, and one of the biggest things that I hear when it comes to like new sheep hunters is the comment of, well, I paid all this money, I put in the time, I'm shooting my first. If it's legal, I'm shooting it. I don't care if it's five. And we're very fortunate in the Northern Rockies where there's still some good genetics left where you can get a 5-year-old full curl. And not just like full curl, like 4 inches above full curl, like massive. It's comments like that that really, and let's be fair, we're not knocking anybody that takes a ram. I'll never say that because it is hard. It's not necessarily the easiest thing. But I think in the future, if we want to see sheep on the mountain being allowed to over the counter hunt stone sheep, we have to change our mindsets and we have to drop it costs this much money, I'm shooting the first legal ram, or a comment like, well, it's legal, I can shoot it. We don't need to be doing that. If we want to hunt sheep in BC over the counter, we need to change our mindset and we need to go, okay, he's 8, but maybe I should wait till he's 9. If we did that, yeah, we're going to shoot less. We're going to shoot less sheep. But we're also not going to be shooting short sheep, young sheep, or illegal sheep. And, you talk to our bios, and they don't want to close sheep hunting. They want us to be able to over-counter sheep hunt. But when they get 40, 50, 60 rams that are illegal, and I don't think we've ever hit that high, but I know that was that 3 years ago where it was like 48 rams?
I
Got
don't think it was that
confiscated?
high, but it was in the 20s for sure. It was a big number. Yeah, like disproportionately high for sure.
Yeah, and I don't think, every year it's still kind of high, if you ask me,
Yeah.
right? So like we gotta change our mindset and we gotta just be like, okay, yeah, he's full curl, but how old is he? Is he 7? Is he 6? Like, Jack O'Connor probably said it best, or even the old timers like oh shoot, I just Gary Powell, like the old timers that started this in the 60s and 50s, like they said, if as long as there's 8-year-old rams on the mountain, there will always be sheep on the mountain. If we only shoot 8 years or older, we will always see rams. And I really believe, and that goes to my rule of 9, I really believe in BC, if we don't really start looking at that, the province will shut it down and we'll be looking at draw. And once these animals go to draw, we all know what happens. They don't come back. And then the price tag on them, it won't be 80 grand for a sheep or 100 grand, it'll be 200. And now it's out of the realm of even a Canadian to be able to afford to come out here and hunt them. So we got to be very conscious of that as residents moving forward if we want to have sheep. And maybe not shooting a sheep. And the other thing is not shooting a sheep every year. Just because you can shoot a sheep every year doesn't mean do you have to? I don't know. That's very personal, a very personal decision, right? Like I know Kyle, I think I met you what 8 years ago now, 7, 8, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I think it was 8 years ago. I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was 2017 or
Yeah.
2018. Anyway, have you shot a ram since? One maybe?
No, but I don't really count because I'm just a shitty hunter, Chad. So that's a bad example. But I get
You
where you're going
no
with that.
no no no. You're not a shitty hunter. You go into the exact same areas I have. You're not a shitty. You're there for the hunt. You're there for the experience, the whole thing, and you're not just shooting a sheep. And that's kind of where I'm at. I don't want to just shoot a sheep for it to be legal. I I want to be able to say that I got my ram. I might not ever, I'll go sheep hunting now. Hopefully I can do it every year, every other year for the rest of my life. But it doesn't mean I'm going to shoot a ram every year. Like now I'll probably never carry a rifle for another ram. And now I want something. It's got to be bigger. It's got to be better. Like I don't know how to.
So, buddy, one thing I want to say, like I'm not, I wanted to just listen to what you were going to say on this podcast, but I'm going to say something that, you talked about these personal choices and about, what not to shoot. And, okay, well, if it's legal, like you're within your right to do whatever you choose. But I want to say that we need to laud the Chad St. Amands of the world that go out and they hold out for a ram for 15 plus years. They start hunting, and the passion and the commitment and going in year after year and holding out and making that decision to take that ram that you walk up to, and it's like, and you know what, like I'm not a super spiritual guy, but when I hear what you've done, and I've known you now for a long time, and I've known your commitment, your drive, your conservation ethic, all these things that are super critically important. And then when like everything aligns, and then you're like rewarded with this 12-year-old ram, and it was almost like you couldn't have fucked that hunt up. Like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it was meant to be. Like when I'm listening to you, all I could think was somebody handed you that ram, and you could never ever plan a trip like that. You could never make it do. And yes, you did all those things to make that happen, and you made good decisions and everything there. But at the end of the day, it was like it was destined. It was like the sheep gods, I don't know what you want to call it, gave you that ram because you frickin' earned it. And my perspective is that people are going to do what they do. People are going to shoot a ram every year. They're going to shoot a 6-year-old ram, or I'm not going to cast dispersions on them. But what I am going to do is I'm going to celebrate a guy like you, a guy like earned that frickin' ram, the guy that these are the people, these are the pillars of our community that we want to lift up and celebrate. And it's awesome. Awesome, brother. Just inspiring.
Thank you. And like, I'm not disparaging. I don't want to disparage anybody who's going to go out and shoot a ram or shoot one every year either. It's just, I really want. So maybe we'll take it back for a second, because I try to be involved in the angling community and the hunting community. But I look at what we have lost in the salmon fishing community. I mean, look around the Vancouver Island, what you guys have lost because people, and it's not necessarily rec anglers, but it's because people kept fish every time they went out. We've lost that opportunity. I can no longer bring my children to my favorite fishing hole in the province because it's been closed. I don't want that to happen to sheep. And I think, with my daughter now being able to come on some bigger hunts. We did an elk hunt this year, and she did really well. And I'm hoping in a few years she'll want to come on these remote sheep hunts and just experience what it's like to be the small thing in the world as a hunter in a remote area. Even though there's people all around, you get that experience when you do those fly-ins or you hike in that 40 or 50K. I don't want to lose sheep hunting. I don't want to lose the areas that allow us to do this. So it's important. Yeah, it's legal. And this was something, this was angling that a lot of my feelings on conservation for hunting, and a lot of how I hunt, it actually comes from the fishing side of things, where it says we can catch and keep 5 trout, but if we didn't have that regulation to catch and keep 5 trout, people would keep every fish they catch. So if we didn't have regulations like 8 years old or full curl, we wouldn't have sheep, because people would just go out and shoot a sheep. It wouldn't matter for them. Of course, there's going to always be the guy that wants the bigger animal and is going to not want to do that. But reality is that's just human nature. And I just want to instill, like, I want to see sheep in the future and all our animals in the future. So we as hunters need to kind of regulate ourselves in a way, um, in order for that to happen. And I really, really believe Wild Sheep has done an excellent job in instilling that in the future. And the vast majority of sheep hunters do have that. Um, they do have that opinion, um, especially especially us residents in the north. Like, the last thing we want to see is stone sheep go to draw, like what's happened down in the Kootenays, and trying to happen here in Region 7 with our bighorn. And I don't think going to draw is necessarily going to help any of those populations in the future myself. I think there's other tools in the bag, that'll help that. And we need to be looking at those tools and advocating for those for sheep, these northern rounds as well.
Yeah,
Right?
definitely need to address the big issues at hand and not press that easy button that seems to pop up all too often is that LEH. So agree with you on that one, that's for sure.
And
Yeah,
I've been hearing that one quite a long time, and I know our bios don't want to do it, but they need the hunting community to buy into something more than just full curl and 8 years old,
mm-hmm.
right?
Well,
So
on
yeah.
that,
Anyway,
yeah, no, on that note, I think that's a great spot to end this one. Where do people find Black Pine?
so if you're looking for a custom rod, or I actually do elk calls and game calls, as well. Um, you you can go to Instagram or Facebook. The website is still down as I decide where I want to go with it. Um, Instagram at Black Pine Creative North or at Black Pine Creative North, and Facebook at Black Pine Creative. Uh, you can also find me in your local tackle shop. Um, just about most communities in northern BC will have it. Coeur Lane Sports in Prince George, Coeur Lane Sports in Dawson Creek, Backcountry in Fort St. John, Lone Star in Chetwynd, um, Oscar Sporting Goods in Smithers, Woods and Water, Burns Lake. So there's quite a lot of local options. Um, and maybe one last thing: support your local hunting and fishing store. Those guys, I mean, when it comes to wild sheep, those local shops put in a lot of money. They put in the time, conservation. They're the ones putting up the auction items at our conventions. Support them. They need your support as much as I need your support as a local builder. Yeah, that's where you can find Black Pine.
Well said, man.
Yeah,
Awesome, brother. Um, just thank you for all you do on a multitude of levels, and we touched on most of them already. But super grateful for everything that you continue to do for our community. And again, just
yeah, yeah.
an inspiration for an aspiring sheep hunter. If you want to know how to sheep hunt, look up to a guy like Chad that's put the hard work in, the effort, and then has been rewarded with it with an incredible ram like that. And like I said, yeah, you're the guy that's going to go out and support the next guy getting his 12-year-old ram. Maybe it's next year, or maybe it's 5 years from now. But awesome, buddy. So cool.
Thanks, guys. I really I appreciate everything you guys are doing for Wild Sheep, and just keeping the projects going around here. You guys have a sheep count coming up too in the next couple weeks. Spence's Bridge on April 5th.
Yeah, we do.
You got her. Are you coming down
Yeah.
or what?
I am actually doing a show in Dawson Creek.
All
Or
right.
I will be I will be bringing my girls down for one of these, for sure this summer, and hopefully we can maybe try and get something going up here. I know we've talked a lot about different things and try and get this northern community a little bit more committed to helping out.
Let's see what we can do.
Well, we got our horn aging too. What's our date on that, Greg? It's May what?
May 11th for
May
Prince
11th?
George. It's a Sunday, 2 p.m.
Okay.
Trench.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely probably be at that for sure. I'm like I said, I'm always willing to help. Just ask.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah, we can. There's lots that can be done, and there's lots of simple ways to support the conservation. Yeah, and going from there.
Awesome.
It's great.
Love it, brother. Appreciate you, man. Congrats
Awesome.
on a killer ram. What are we doing for? Are you going to send us a shot of that picture for the show graphic, or what are we going to show for that? Are we going to show some fishing rods? What do we got? I want to see that.
It's got to be the ram. There's no questions.
Well, maybe I'll bring him up to the northern and down south next year.
Nice. Yeah.
How did
Awesome.
I haven't asked either of you, and I mean we don't have to record this. How did Kelowna go for you guys? It looked awesome.
Good.
We never went to
Kelowna. It was a good show. Penticton, yeah. It was great. It was everyone showed up and just supported, and it was phenomenal. It was we had a great year this year, and like Greg, and how can we fail when we got guys like Chad supporting, and like you said, these local businesses, the Omers of the world, that the Italians that are stepping up and just supporting, and I hate to single people out, but they're just stepping up and just doing so much for our community. And then with the dedicated membership that we it's pretty inspiring, man. Like we pinch ourselves regularly because we've got a great group of people that are doing amazing stuff. Just phenomenal.
You definitely do.
Yeah. Unreal community and the sheep family. It's something special, and I wish everybody, even if you're not into the sheep world, come check it out, see what it's about, and I can almost guarantee you're sucked in after. So
yeah. Well, and you guys don't. It's not just. I remember a few years back we got to talk, and I don't even know if it was with you, Kyle, or I was talking to somebody else, but it's not just wild sheep that Wild Sheep Society supports. It's also the other conservation projects that happen to not necessarily affect wild sheep, but it'll be within the bounds of wild sheep. The one that came to mind was like toads in the Fraser Canyon or Thompson Valley or something like that. You guys, there was some help with.
I don't even remember that one specifically, but the list is long, right? Like when you're conserving one animal, you're helping a plethora of others, right?
Yeah.
Granby's a classic example. We preserved that land. We worked with silt on that one, and it was for obviously California bighorns there. But that's there's blue listed badgers there. There's rattlesnakes. There's a whole host of species that benefited from that, and that land's protected for perpetuity, right? So but there's just countless examples of that, as you know. So.
And that's actually what put me over the edge with joining Wild Sheep and wanting to do more with them. It wasn't just, it was sheep and it was putting money into sheep and actually doing, but it was the little things that got affected by the larger picture, which I think in this province, Wild Sheep has done a fantastic job of collaborating and actually putting their money where their mouth is. So that's a kudos to, you, Kyle and Greg, with your leadership and the board and the great things you guys do. So again, thank you, and have a good night.
You as well.
Appreciate you, brother.